What's going on, guys? Zane here with Everything Vive. I want to welcome you back for another episode. I am joined, as usual, by Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Good start to the week with President's Day, and I guess it was a holiday for some, maybe not for all, but even still, we're in Chicago, and the weather here for February has been fantastic, north of 60
Cannot
degrees.
complain.
Yeah, so everyone's just in a much better mood these days. So we are back with another news and game talk episode for you guys. And I think we got a couple articles here. I'll jump into it first if that's okay, Ronnie.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So let's talk mobile VR. HTC is planning to launch a mobile device. A mobile VR device as a follow-up to the Vive. Now, this isn't what we really were expecting in terms of Vive 2, but the HTC execs are saying it's not just going to be a phone that's slapped into a headset or like a Google Cardboard type of thing. It's going to have some pretty, we don't have full details yet, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit more ambitious than what the Gear VR and Google Daydream are doing right now. What that means exactly, I'm not sure. But what I'm curious about is this going to have compatibility and, I guess, interconnectivity with the full Vive system? And, I'm curious what this means for HTC moving forward. Now, just going through their... I guess HTC has obviously been struggling very much in terms of phone sales and on the mobile side. And, the shift to VR has been, I think, fantastic for them in terms of how well the Vive has been received. So I guess it's only fair for them to want to try and, permeate that success through the other areas of their business. But what are your thoughts, man? I know we don't have too many details right now, but this seems to be the hottest topic in terms of what's going on with HTC and, Vive related news right now.
Well, first, I guess I think it's smart on their part because mobile VR is, whether we like it or not, a really big thing. I wouldn't say, like it or not per se, but I mean, you and I, we like, our hardcore, more well-developed, more capable VR systems, but there's a lot of people out there that, for whatever reasons, either don't have the PC or aren't willing to shell out, the money to get a full-on high-end VR system. And for those people, mobile VR right now is really their only option. So as much as those experiences so far, aren't really up to par when looking at the Vive or the Rift or those types of headsets, I mean, it is still something. And especially if HTC is able to really get into a middle ground where they're offering something that is not quite as low end as a Gear VR, but not quite as high end as a Vive, but somewhere in the middle. I mean, I can see a lot of potential for that. So just like you, I'm curious to know what the details are, how compatibility will work. Are they going to have their own storefront, that sort of thing on the mobile side? You could see something like a Viveport app being something that might work to their advantage there. But at the same time, if it's, like most HTC phones, it's going to be an Android compatible device. So you would think that it would still, work with all of those other mobile apps out there that work for VR currently. So yeah, I'm curious to see kind of what comes out of it and what those special features might be. Something that I might be interested in would be inside out tracking, for example. I mean, we know room scale is the big catch with the Vive, so you would hope that they'd find a way of filtering some of that capability down into a mobile set, but it's really hard to say right now. But I mean, at any rate, it is smart, and I think, it's somewhat surprising given that we hadn't heard anything about it before, but at the same time, looking at the market, it makes a lot of sense.
So to be fair, I feel like I did remember hearing something about HTC working on a smartphone. I didn't. It wasn't framed in terms of like it's the follow up to the Vive. But there was
right.
Some talk of like a Vive smartphone coming out. I think even at that time there was less details on what exactly it was.
Yeah, no, now that you're saying that, I remember that. And what was striking back then was that it seemed like they were going to be expanding the Vive brand to other, but yeah, there was nothing to really indicate that the phone was going to be, targeting VR or have VR capabilities. But it all kind of makes sense now when you think about it. If they're going to brand something as Vive related, then it only makes sense to try to put some type of capability there. So, but yeah, no, it's an interesting announcement nonetheless, and I still I don't know how HTC is going to market it or anything like that, but I still think for most people out there, they're not going to really view this as the successor to Vive per se, but more like a standalone, separate device.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't, label it as Vive 2, but it just weird that they said it's the follow up to the Vive.
Yeah, that's a weird phrasing. So that's what I'd be curious to see when it actually gets closer to release, if they actually I'm curious to see how they market it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm actually all over the place in terms of I have very mixed feelings about the announcement. To be honest, when I was first reading up about it, I was like, oh gosh, why? Why are they focusing on this?
Yeah.
We're so excited for like the next generation of tech. Like, can't they just put all their energy and resources there? And that was like the initial thought running through my mind. But in talking with you and just kind of mulling it over for a little bit, I remember when I feel like it's an episode a while back, but talking about mobile VR, talking about PSVR, the PlayStation VR, and
Hmm.
how I guess lower tiered platforms, and I say that lovingly. Just that's just a matter of like what it is, whether it's mobile or it's not like a high fidelity PC gaming type, but for VR and as a VR fan, we need all of them to succeed. Like, that no matter what, even if you own a Vive and you want a Vive or Oculus, whatever the case might be, you want Samsung Gear VR to be successful because that's the closest, like you were saying, that the mainstream has to being able to access VR on a very regular basis and be able to have it and bring it into their homes. So the entire time you want VR to succeed on all levels, and especially the mobile level is probably the most mainstream version right now. So I can see the Vive kind of doubling down on that, or at least placing their bets accordingly, and
Hmm.
making a phone or making a mobile device that will allow people to experience this, and then also be somewhat like the gateway drug, where it's just like, oh, okay, if you like what we have here, well then you probably want to upgrade to the Vive and kind of build their customer loyalty fan base in that way. Now, on the
Hmm.
flip side of that, brand loyalty is a huge thing, I feel like, when it comes to smartphones. The obvious one being Apple, and I own an iPhone myself. I know that a lot of people on my network. I think you have an iPhone as well,
I do. Yeah.
and so it's just it's tough when and I know Android users are the same way in terms of just having that brand loyalty, having your the way that apps are built, and a lot of these programs are built now. You kind of like put your life into one of them, and so you just start kind of going all in. So I'm just curious how HTC will fare in terms of gaining some type of market share, being able to pull people away from whatever brands they're currently on. And so, like, for me and for us, we're huge Vive enthusiasts, obviously, but I'm finding it even hard myself to be able to say I would switch from an iPhone to whatever HTC has coming down the pipeline. At least not as like my primary phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I were able to get my hands on one just to be able to see what it's like and be able to use it, that'd be fantastic. But I don't know.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah.
I don't know how brand loyalty for the mobile side is going to play into this, and what type of effect that's going to have long term for HTC's mobile side.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I'm not. I the last HTC. I did own an HTC phone, but that was before I owned one of the like HTC Evos or something back in the day, like before it was, right at the beginning of when Android was really getting popular and all of that. Like since then, I've never had an HTC phone, so I can't really comment too much. But uh, but yeah, like I agree with you to some extent, like actually to a large extent. You know, how what's the market share actually going to be like for people that you know that are going to be using an HTC mobile device for VR? You know, you can see people that already were interested in what HTC was offering, picking up one and then having the capability of also doing VR. But it's kind of difficult to see, especially if people don't really know what they're missing. Like if HTC's mobile platform is actually, you know, a step up from what Pixel and what Samsung Gear VR is doing, then it might be a little bit hard for your average consumer to kind of realize that and go out of their way to pick up a Vive, mobile phone, um, right off the bat. So like, will it be something that really pulls people over to the platform? It seems unlikely to me, but nonetheless, especially with, I mean, we talked about this before as well. I mean, Oculus, in a lot of ways, restructured their company to to put a greater emphasis on the mobile side of things, not so much to replace the high end stuff, but just recognizing that, at least right now, mobile devices are in the hands of a lot more people than high end PCs. And so you just have the capability of reaching a lot more people that way. So even if, that market share for HTC phones is much, much smaller than Samsung or Apple or even Pixel now, it seems like it's at least worthwhile to put something out there to be able to capture part of that market, and then depending on how things go and how great it is, then I guess you just never know. But yeah, I'm with you right now. I think it. I mean, it sounds like kind of a distraction, kind of something that you or I are probably not going to be that interested in as just mobile, you know as general consumers. If
Hmm.
it becomes something that is really necessary, then we might end up getting something like that for the channel or something like that. Who knows? But if people like us aren't interested, it's hard to think that the general population would be. But
Well, see, and now just kind of in thinking about it after your comments, um, I feel like maybe we're somewhat looking at it in the wrong way. Maybe you and I aren't the target consumers. I mean, yeah, we are
yeah,
we are Vive owners, and therefore, we're obviously fans of the Vive and Team Vive. But maybe this is geared towards the people who don't own Vives but want to get one. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And this,
that's true.
you know what I mean? Like, and so
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
obviously within our listener base, I know there's a lot of people, surprisingly, that I found out just in conversations with them who don't own a Vive, but are fascinated by the platform, fascinated by the technology, and interested enough to be able to want to listen to this podcast and other podcasts regarding VR, but maybe aren't in a place, or maybe haven't found it worthwhile to drop at least $800 on a headset plus however much more for a PC if they don't already own one. But this is
Hmm.
almost like a stopgap solution, two in one, where it's just like, well, let me get started with HTC, or sorry, let me get started with the Vive, and kind of start building myself into that brand, but not necessarily on the high end, but still be able
Yeah,
to access whatever the case might be for mobile apps. And I mean, it's really kind of insane to think about how much mobile apps have come along just in like 5 years,
yeah,
especially for games. And so, with the advent of VR, or sorry, not the advent, but with the with where VR is right now, and where it's obviously looking to go, and with the technology, I wouldn't be surprised with there being some pretty, maybe the games that we're playing right now in 3 to 4 years,
yeah,
those will be available on HTC Vive phones or mobile devices, or just mobile devices in general, and
yeah.
maybe even
No,
in
it's
better
not out of the
resolution,
question.
better mechanics, better everything than what we're playing right now.
Yeah, no, it's not out of the question. I mean, I forget what I saw, but yeah, you're right. Like, I think if my memory serves me correctly, basically the mobile platforms, at least right now, are a few years behind at all stages. So like anytime you look at, okay, where is the PC? If you move over to phones, you're a few years behind. And like and you're totally right that in 2 3 years from now, it's very possible that we'll have very comparable VR setups on the mobile platforms like we do on the when compared to PCs today. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's what like Oculus is betting on. I think that's what and so yeah, it makes total sense for them to do this. And you're 100% right. I mean, as expensive as a phone is not nearly as expensive as a fully built gaming PC and a separate Vive system and all of that sort of thing. So for those people out there, if they were able to see, if HTC released a phone that was able to do VR well and do VR better than these other cheaper alternatives out there in the mobile space, I could see a lot of people that haven't jumped in so far that have been really wanting to potentially, I guess jump out. So yeah, that is a good way of looking at it. And for HTC, especially probably in their mobile division, I mean, they're looking for anything to try to pull users away, and you have to start somewhere, right? So this is probably, I mean, who would have thought that a few months ago that Google would be coming back out with a Pixel and that it'd be doing so well and all of that. So granted, Google has a lot of resources and branding and whatnot behind it, but HTC is no slouch either when it comes to phones, and my understanding is their phones are pretty decent. So if they did have some kind of really cool hook to get people over to their platform, then that's good on them. So
Yeah, well, we'll see once more details come out. I mean, I even though I can't see myself necessarily switching my primary phone, I'm still very curious to see what will be, the main features that differentiate it from the Pixel, from the Samsung Gear VR, and
yeah,
it obviously is the second. I don't want to say second generation, but it's coming out at a later time, so I'm sure the engineers and the developers at HTC were able to look at what made the Samsung Gear VR and the Pixel as popular as they are and improve upon those, and then obviously maybe also fix up on the shortcomings and just create an overall better experience. So it'll be really cool to see what they come out with.
yep, agreed.
Sweet. Well, let's move on to. I think you got a news topic regarding a very, very hotly anticipated game.
Yeah, so actually, I just wanted to briefly. There isn't a whole lot to say about it, but I did want to bring it up because recently uh, there was a news story that came out regarding a game that a lot of people, both owners of the Vive and potential owners of the Vive, have really been waiting for, and that is Fallout 4 in VR. So recently, Bethesda's Todd Howard. I'm not sure if he's the CEO or I definitely know he's one of the top guys over there at Bethesda. Um, he recently was interviewed by Glixel, and in that interview, he basically talked about how the Fallout 4 VR project is going along well, and how they're able to play the game from start to finish right now, even though there's a lot that they're still working on. That the game is actually fully up and running in VR, and that the interface is great. He said that for those of you that haven't played any of the recent Fallout, basically Fallout 3 or Fallout 4, um, uh, those games are kind of first-person shooter, you know, action RPG type games. They're not really. They are kind of like stop and go, not really super actiony, but kind of a mix between like a Skyrim and what a first-person shooter is that you would expect. But kind of one of the interesting things about it is that the interface in the game is an actual like physical device that the player has on their arm. It's called a Pip-Boy, and it sounds like they were really able to get that interface working really intuitively in VR. So literally, whenever you need to access menus or that sort of thing, you look down at your arm and you have that device in game that you can actually use intuitively. So, that's cool that they're able to get that in working as well as they have apparently. And then the other thing is the combat system that works in the game like I said, it's not fully action oriented. It's you have the ability to pause the action using a special gameplay system in Fallout. It's called the VAT system, and basically it allows you to kind of pause the action, choose how you want to shoot your enemies. Like, are you gonna get a headshot? Are you gonna do this? Are you gonna do that? Like, what weapons are you gonna use, etc. And then kind of let everything play forward. And apparently that also helps players be able to play the game in VR because it you know it doesn't require you to have super twitchy actiony reflexes to play the game. You're able to pause it and manage everything even though you're in VR versus having access to a controller and joysticks and that sort of thing. So anytime you hear about these kind of big grandiose titles coming to VR, people get excited. But I think really right now Fallout 4 is one of the and especially the fact that it's coming from Bethesda, with everything that's gone on with Oculus and ZeniMax lately and all of that stuff. It's interesting to it's interesting to see. It's always great to have news about these titles to know that they're still moving forward. And yeah, we can't wait to play it. So I just wanted to bring that up to let everybody know that some positive news that came out about the progress of Fallout 4 in VR.
For sure, for sure. No, I'm excited for that. I think a lot of people are anticipating it, and I think it was E3 last year that they mentioned it, or at least announced it, and
Yeah.
the expected wait time, or they were saying that it was they were hoping to release, I believe, in like within 12 months of that announcement. So that's what, June of this year.
Yeah, I mean that's coming up pretty soon. So
Yeah, I
if it
mean,
came out, I mean that would be amazing because I mean this is like it's a very involved game, and I mean the game is Fallout 4, the traditional version of it is already out, and it's a really good game. So I mean for anyone that hasn't played it through, this is going to be a no brainer if you have a Vive. And really, I mean there aren't any games on this type of scale out on the Vive, not even close. I mean, we're talking a game that could potentially take, you know, 60, 70 plus hours to complete. So it's not like a walk in the park, and it's definitely involved and a lot of fun, and it'll be super cool to see. I mean, if they're able to pull it off in VR, I think you'll start seeing some of these other AAA developers maybe potentially get interested in it if it works out well for them. So
I mean, the thing is, like, you said if they're able to pull it off in VR, even if it's not perfect, I still think that it's going to be popular enough. And I mean, obviously, I'm
yeah,
being hopeful right now,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I just believe that even if it's not perfect in every way possible, because I know that they're in that article they were mentioning, how they're balancing the teleport versus locomotion and trying to figure out exactly how to how to go about the whole movement system. But even if they don't get it perfect, I think the response will still be overwhelmingly positive in terms of people are just waiting for this to come out, and hopefully it's not overhyped. Hopefully it still delivers the type of experience that people are looking for. But even if it's not perfect, I think it'll be inspiring for other companies, other developers of AAA games to come out with VR versions of their games.
Totally, and it's just like it's going to be an example of what a game can look like in VR that wasn't necessarily built for VR initially. So like I wonder. I mean, you see kind of hacks and stuff in the past of getting traditional games to work in VR, and some are better than others. But it'll be interesting to see kind of what some of the workarounds are that Bethesda comes up with, and kind of what systems survive and what systems they end up changing to better suit the games in VR. I'm just curious to see what that's going to look like for a game that was already released, before the Vive version came out. So
Very true. Very true. Well, hopefully we don't have to wait too long because it's coming up. I want to say what, 4 months, 3 months ish.
yeah, no,
So
if they're still, and I mean, I don't know that the new article mentioned the timeline uh, per se. So hopefully they're still on track for that release. But I'm
well,
actually
there.
kind of curious. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there was another article that mentioned, in I don't know, I guess Bethesda fashion, it would probably be where they announce the release at E3 this year. And so
Yeah,
in my mind, that would be that makes complete sense. I would think that if they
and the
don't
game
release it
is
before,
finished.
they'd
I mean,
probably release it then.
yeah, no, I agree. They tend to do that, and realistically, I mean, I'm sure it requires a lot of work, but at the same time, like the game is finished. They just have to bring it over to VR. And I'm not saying that that's a trivial feat, but you'd think that an entire year is enough time to potentially do at least what they're going to be willing to do for a project like that. Versus it's not like they're going to rebuild the game from the ground up.
For sure.
But yeah, just before we move on, I'm just as excited. I'd say I'm probably more excited about Fallout 4 and VR, just because the type of game that is. I think will be well suited to long play sessions and stuff. But I'm really, really, really curious to see what Doom would potentially look like in VR, because that game is like the new Doom game is number one. It's amazing, but number two is it's super fast paced and super actiony, and very much, in my opinion, less suited for VR than a game like Fallout 4. And I mean, Bethesda said that they're working on bringing Doom to VR. At least they did when they made that initial announcement. So I'm almost more curious to see what that game ends up looking like in VR than Fallout 4. But that isn't to say that I won't be playing Fallout 4 on day one.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see, obviously more than one game kind of on the horizon. So there'll be a lot to compare. There'll be a lot to try out.
Yep, yep.
Cool. Well, you ready to transition over to game talk?
Yeah. Let's do it. Do you want to go first or?
Totally up to you. What? I mean, you can go first.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm actually, yeah. So the game that I have today, and you had mentioned, I mean, that one of our readers had suggested that one of our listeners
Yeah,
had
listener.
suggested they had suggested that we play this game, and I had actually already picked it up, and I was just waiting to get a chance to play it, and that's Knockout League. So I got a chance to play it. It came out in late January. It's $20, and actually I left very like I have very mixed thoughts about this game, just because I think right now for most people it's a little hard to recommend, just in terms of it really is very, very early. Like it's an early access title, and there isn't a whole lot of content yet in the game. But what's there is really, really good and really, really polished. So that's why I say like it's hard. I mean, more polished and more finished than most other games. As far as the content that's already there, it's just really short and really brief. So that's what. So I mean, going into it, I mean, this is a boxing game. If you couldn't already tell by the name, Knockout League, and it's very much a boxing game in the vein of a game like Punch Out, more so than like more of a serious simulation type game. It's all about reading patterns of your enemy, but because it's in VR, it's more than that, because really, in order to read patterns and actually move about in real space, you actually do have to get physical and move. And for that reason, you can't really just blindly compare it to a game like Knockout, because it does require a lot of movements, and a lot of let's just say, put it this way, I have not gotten this tired from a game that I've played in a while. And I mean, and that's speaking as someone that used to be in shape, that's not quite as in shape now. So I feel like games like these kind of trick me, because I kind of go all out at the beginning and really like move around a lot and get into it, and then shortly after start getting sore and oh man, like what am I doing? But like this game is really cool in that regard. Like so like Punch Out, it has a very cartoony aesthetic, but I mean, each of the characters that I've only fought the first two characters. There's four characters that come with the game currently. For opponents, I should say, that you fight, and each one is very, very different from one another. I mean, they have completely different fight styles. They all have a very fun, unique look to them, and a very unique style to them. And I mean, really, some of the best art design that I've seen in a Vive game. Period. I mean, they're very very well done. A lot of personality to the characters. I really the I mean I not just the characters themselves and how they're modeled, but the way the animations work and the patterns that the developers implemented into the game are all very unique and are again just spilling with lots of personality. So those things are all really great. One of the other things that I noticed and I have to mention is that the soundtrack, just the audio is really really good. There's only a couple of songs from what I could, maybe even just one main track from what I remember, but it's very very like very very appropriate for the game. It's like kind of Rocky esque, like get your heart pumping. It's epic and fun and just a perfect soundtrack. And then you step into the ring, and even the trainers, lips are moving to the audio. They're properly lip synced. You really just feel like a lot of love is being put into this game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I um, right now, like I said, there's not that much content. It's really a very 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 brief tutorial. Like we're talking just a few minutes, and then there's the fighting with the four individual boxers. And I mean, each round is probably going to take you about 20 minutes or so. So we're talking maybe like an hour total of gameplay.
I mean, that's well, a round is 20 minutes, and that's if you win, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit less, maybe closer to 10 minutes. I'm not really sure. I mean, I got through. I mean, it's hard. Like I said, by the time I mean, I won the first round and I was fine. The second round, I was getting sore and tired, from the first round. And I mean, literally, because at least for me, the most effective way of dodging punches was literally to completely move out of the way of punches. So every single time I was like leaning back and dodging and ducking. And after doing that over and over and over again, I mean, my legs were actually legitimately getting sore. Like I was starting to cramp up. So by that second fight, I was really slowing down and than just not dodging all of the punches and stuff that I should have been dodging because I was just getting tired. And it was like a cool feel. Like, I mean, I actually legitimately feel like if I played this semi regularly, that it would actually improve my health because that's how much I was moving around. And really, like, I mean, I couldn't really take much more. Like, one fight, I was pretty good. The second fight, I was like barely getting through. And I actually lost the second fight, and that's when I just had to stop. I mean, I was because if I would have continued to go, I was getting worse and worse because of how tired I was getting. So that's what, and maybe other people are cheat the system better than me and barely move their heads and are able to dodge punches, and they're not gonna. But like for me, I was actually having a lot of fun playing the game the way I was playing it,
But I mean, that's
and
that's part of the experience, though. I mean, being
yeah,
able to
exactly.
like act, I mean, that's room scale, right? Being like physically a part of the game and moving around and dodging punches and all
Exactly.
that. So
But this is, I mean, and I mean, I never really reviewed the game, but Thrill of the Fight was another boxing game that I bought back in the day, and that game wasn't nearly as like. I mean, I'm in my short time with this game, I liked it infinitely more, and it was basically because of really the character and the personality and the fighters. I mean, the animations go a long way. It's a lot of fun, and there's just a couple of other things about it that I think are better done. But I mean, so this game. So I mean, in short, this game is a game that I would not hesitate to recommend if there was more content in it. Like right now, there's a training mode, but when you go over to the training mode, besides the brief tutorial, everything else is kind of coming soon, marked off in black and or grayed out. So if all of those different modes start filling out and they add additional fighters to the game, I would not hesitate. You must like I would say that you really have to get this game as it stands right now, because it's $20. If it's a little bit harder to recommend just because it's uncertain how much exactly is going to be added. but I can't fault. I mean, everything that's there is pretty much perfect. It's how I'd want it, and it's just a matter of adding more. So it's a little different than like a lot of early access games that we talk about. It's like, okay, there's aspects of this or that that are complete, but there's a lot of missing gaps. This one, I feel for Knockout League, everything that's in the game now feels finished and feels great. It's just there's not a lot in the game right now, and so you'd like to see them double or triple or that content and really add in different modes. And if they can do that, then this is, I mean, yeah, this is one of the most fun games I've played on the Vive period. But until I know what some of those plans are, it's kind of so it you. I mean, anyone out there listening, you'll kind of know where you fit in this. If you really like, cartoony, like personality styled game, like if you think that that's going to really make a difference for you, and you really want a boxing game, I mean, this is the game to get, I think. And if you want a boxing game, period, I mean, even in its early stages, I've had more fun with this than I've had with some of the other more, uh, some of the earlier boxing titles that are out there. So that's just that's my take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we always say, price point isn't necessarily something that everyone else is concerned about. But I mean, I keep seeing the positive reviews about this game, and it's a shout out to I'm sorry, it's a shout out to John Brown. He's the one who commented and let us know about the game. So thank you, John. It looks like Ronnie's having a blast with it, and
Yeah,
I will.
no, for what it's worth, I'm not regret like I said, you guys know yourselves, but I'm not regretting the $20 purchase on my end. I mean, there are some games where I get them and like I play them and like I'm probably not going to play that again. That kind of sucks. Like, I personally don't like returning games in those kind of situations, but it's sometimes you kind of know like, okay, this was kind of overpriced for me. This game, even though the content was light, fully satisfied with it. I can't wait for there to be more and more content. Like, it's a game that I legitimately will be on the lookout for to really see when updates come out and get excited about. So.
For sure. Well, I mean, just based on the Steam updates, it looks like the developer is pretty involved. So, hoping that they'll be adding stuff in. And again, I mean, this is it's that attitude of going into it with early access, right? You're not sure what you're gonna get, but it sounds like with what you have right now, you're pretty happy with it.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, so I got another game that came out relatively recently. Tongue twister there, but it's last week. It's the John Wick Chronicles, and if you've seen the movies, which I only saw recently, I saw the first one, which inspired me to go see the second one that was coming out, and especially after I saw that there was going to be a VR game dedicated to John Wick. I checked out the movies. The movies are fun. I mean, they're not for everyone. There's obviously a lot of violence, a lot of action, and that's just kind of Keanu Reeves' thing now. But he does it. He does it well. You can't find fault with the guy for doing what he does well. And so the movies are a lot of fun. And I gotta say, the gameplay is surprisingly. It was surprisingly great, for lack of better words. I can't think of anything better to say right now. But it's I guess some of the criticism that I was reading about it before I ended up getting it was that it's a wave-based shooter and it is relatively short. There aren't too many levels, and so and for $20 again, I don't want to harp on price, but for $20, a lot of people were saying that it wasn't really worth it. For me, I gotta say that I haven't played all the levels yet because I actually can't get past one since it's not as easy. But the wave-based stuff, yeah, it's wave-based, but for some reason I just love the gameplay to it. It doesn't necessarily make me feel like actually it does make me feel a little bit like John Wick, but I love the what's the word I'm looking for? The atmosphere, the feel of it. If you watch the movies, then it very much reminds you of the movies. They have the characters in there. They have, I mean, just everything about it feels really great. The game has a proper and fantastic feel to it, and so
Hmm.
I've had a lot of fun with it. Like I can't find anything necessarily wrong with the game, and
What
maybe
are the yeah? Because I haven't played it yet, and I actually just like. I mean, I've heard some amazing things about the John Wick movies, but I haven't actually gotten a chance to watch them yet. I know it's blasphemous, uh, but I will. I
no,
will at some
I hadn't
point.
watched them until recently either. I think
Uh,
the first one was somewhat of a sleeper movie. Like it doesn't, it kind of caught fire a little bit after the fact, and people weren't really expecting it. It came out of nowhere. But that I saw it recently, and then realized the second one was coming out. But yeah, sorry. What's your question?
Oh no, no, you're fine. Well, my question is like, what's like, what is the atmosphere like? Like what are the levels like? Like, are you in really big open environments? And, like, I know it's wave based, and I don't know if you're able to teleport or move around in the environments or what. I assume that you can't, since most wave based shooters don't let you. But just kind of like, I'm trying to get a picture
Sure, sure.
of
Okay, so
what this game's like compared to a lot of the others out there.
let's dive into more specifics on the gameplay. It is not you cannot teleport, but it is full, I guess, room scale in a sense because you can move around your entire environment. And what's cool is that if you have a bigger space, there are a lot of like obstacles and stuff that you can hide behind, and you have to hide behind. In one of the levels that I'm on right now, I'm constantly. It probably looks hilarious because I'm literally on the floor of my living room, just shooting over shooting over the rails, shooting over the barricades that are in front of me, because I'm like surrounded by enemies. I'm like tossing grenades everywhere, and there's just something to it that makes it feel, I guess, almost, you know what? Have you ever been paintball or gone for paintball?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it feels like that. Obviously, it's in VR. You can't actually get shot, but in a lot of the other wave-based games that I've played, I guess raw data comes to mind initially, or other games where you can kind of move around. Here, you can't really move around. You're somewhat pinned down, and there are enemies from like all directions. You have an assortment of different guns that you can use. So you really feel like that action star being able to switch between guns. Enemies are getting close. You can dual wield pistols, and then all of a sudden, like the next wave comes, and it's guys on a building across the street, and you got to pull out a rifle that has a scope on it, and you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel as it feels very cinematic in the sense that you're guided by a friend who's talking to you through an earpiece. And so, it's not like, okay, wave one, wave two, wave three, phase clear. Like it's like enemies are constantly coming to you, and the guy on the phone will be like, oh, duck, look out to your right. Oh, watch out, there's men coming up the building next to you. You know what I mean? So it's in that sense, it feels much more fluid. It feels much more cinematic. And you're constantly, it's like you have a Overwatch or something, or somebody who's helping you, and kind of just navigating you through the game. And it's, that again, like it comes down to, it's based on a movie. So it comes down to like a very cinematic feel. The first couple levels that I've done, you're trying to hunt this guy. And I know you haven't seen the movie yet, but you're essentially, the movie's about like a John Wick, who is a hitman or an assassin, and there is like this whole just cult or secret society organization of assassins that exists around the entire world, and he's a part of them. And I won't get into it more than that, but so it's just these people who are obviously very highly trained, very skilled. Think something like Jason Bourne, but with a little bit more character to it, rather than something as gritty as what the Bourne movies were.
Sure.
So this one just has a little bit more spice to it, and it fits really well because again, it's a movie that feels like a video game, and now you have a video game that feels like a movie correspondingly. And so,
And as far as like my understanding is that this game had a bigger budget than, like, it wasn't really, it's not made by an independent developer or anything like that. Like, do you see some of the are the production values higher than your average wave based shooter that's out on the Vive right now, or like what's something that might differentiate it, from some of the other titles that are out there for people that are on the fence?
I would say that production value and production level is very high. I mean, I think it's hard to say, it's hard to call it like a AAA game, because I'm sure people will disagree that it doesn't have all of the features, that you'd want out of a AAA game. There's no movement, there's no locomotion or teleportation. Like you're stuck, in singular places that you can move around your space and be able to duck and dodge, but you're kind of stuck in those areas. But the game, the way that the game is done, it revolves around you, so you're constantly moving from one place to the next, so your environments are different even though your play space is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so to me, like, it's just even going through like the tutorial, the training, it's not a difficult game. But like I said, I got stuck on a level that I've tried, I think 3 or 4 times already. And when I'm done, similar to you, like, I'm sweating. I was literally just on the floor and shooting over, it feels like you're in an action movie. And I guess
so that's like one of the best things that you can say about a Vive game, honestly.
No, seriously, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the game is getting flack for certain things, and I'm not disagreeing that maybe length is something that leaves more to be desired. But I haven't hit the ending yet, and maybe that's because I suck at the game. But I don't think I'm doing that badly. But there's even still, like, it's that element of just being so immersed in the game, having enemies coming from 360, and just I don't know. There's a really high production value to it, and like you mentioned, I think the fact that it wasn't necessarily worked on by an independent studio, that it has a little bit more polish to it, and you can definitely feel that. And so I think maybe people had been going into the game expecting more, especially since it's associated with a movie franchise. But for what it is and for the value that you get for $20, I would say that it's still pretty fun. Like, sorry, not pretty fun. It's still really fun, like ridiculously fun. And I haven't had an experience. I'm trying to think of like other wave-based shooters that I've had similar experiences, and I don't think I have had experiences similar to this one, to be quite honest with you. I'm trying to think of like the top games. So like Space Pirate Trainer, is obviously one of the top wave-based games, and that has its own charm to it, but it's completely different than this, and it has its strengths and weaknesses compared to this. If you're looking for something a little bit more realistic, I'm trying to think of, well, I guess Raw Data and Arizona Sunshine, but then again, like, those you get to move around like larger areas, and the enemies are a little bit different. They're either zombies or they're robots or something. Here, like, you have people. I mean, you have like military individuals that are like running at you, shooting back at you. And so maybe even if it's just the aesthetic of them, you shooting other people, it makes a huge difference. You're not just fighting zombies. You're not just fighting robots with guns.
The other game I was thinking when you were talking about it was Serious Sam. The Serious Sam, likewise, it's you have hordes of these like enemies coming at you, but they're all like weird creatures, and they just kind of run at you, and you take them out. Like, it sounds like it's quite a bit different. So. Yeah.
So like I said, I think what really adds the element to me, or element for me, is that, like, you can take shots from these other people, from your enemies, and I know that's the case with other games too. But in other games, like, you may have the ability, I know maybe not in Serious Sam, but like in other games, like, you have the ability to teleport away, to move to different areas or something like that, or just to buy yourself some time. Here, like, if enemies start to build up, like, I actually feel pinned down behind like these little barricades that I have, and I'm like. I'm like on the floor shooting with one hand over, and then with my other hand, I'm like reaching across the other side of my little play space to grab a grenade that I can throw over. And you know what I mean? It's just like, there's just something about it, and you got to try it. And maybe I hope I'm not overhyping it for you or for other people.
No.
I just like I said, I just think the game is getting a lot of flack for maybe things, like I said, that could potentially be very, very true in terms of length, but the gameplay itself, it has been a lot of fun, and I've actually had an amazing time with it so far. And so
that's awesome to hear. I mean, for for me personally, I mean, not everyone probably is in the same like spot financially as every other person, whatever. But I mean, for me, I I care more about having because I mean, all of these games are relatively cheap compared to a lot of things out there. I mean, you look at games on on consoles or PC that aren't VR, and while they're going to last you quite a bit longer, those games are $60. I mean, they're two, three, four times more expensive than most of the games that people are purchasing on different VR platforms. I mean, there are some $60 titles, but most titles are going to be under $30, under $20, etc. And for me, if you can get an experience that, even if it lasts an hour, even if it lasts 2 hours, 3 hours, if it's a really solid, exciting experience that makes you feel like you're somewhere doing something amazing, for me, you know, $20 is well worth the price because even if you're going to only play it once, you're going to have people come and play it. You're going to, take a step back and play it in a few months. Like it's not something that's going to go away. And if it had that strong impression on you the first time, chances are it's going to have a strong impression on other people you show
Yeah.
and at later time. So for me personally, like I think above all is, does a game have a standout, exciting, first hand experience. Like if you
Hmm.
are able to have a really exciting first time with a game, it almost pays for itself, right there, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I mean, you just touched upon the next point that I was going to bring up which was, showing it off to other people. I think it's definitely shot up to the top of the list in terms of people who are looking for, some type of first person shooter that they can play. Obviously there's a lot of games now that are kind of on that list for us, but I think this game has its own unique charm to it that, like I said, I'd love to be able to throw someone else in there, and hopefully, I will be able to in the near future. But I'd love to be able to get someone else in there and like see how they react to it, because, like I said, for me, it was a very like visceral response of like, oh, holy crap! I'm like pinned down. I'm like crawling around my play space, trying to figure out like where the open lanes are that I can take shots at these guys, and like, you know what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
like I said, it's
No, I'm really
yeah.
excited. Like I'll be honest. Like before hearing you talk about it, I was obviously going to give it a shot and everything, but I wasn't super excited about it. Like I just, oh, okay, another wave based shooter or whatever. Like after hearing you talk about it, I'm very excited, and I can't wait to give it a try. So.
I see. Again, I don't want to overhype it. All I will say is go into it with an open mind, because for me, like I went into it with that mindset of like, oh, it's another wave based shooter, but I like the movies. I like John Wick, so let's see how it kind of played out. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoy the gameplay and how much I still have left to go. I mean, I think I've played at least an hour, maybe even more than that at this point, and there's still plenty to do. Granted, because I'm having trouble with a certain level, but still, like every time I go back in and like I tried different tactics, I tried different things, I tried different guns, and it's just been a really great experience so far. So I'm hoping that people who might be on the fence about it will reconsider.
Well, very cool. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I think this is a really great week for games. There were a lot of cool things that came out. So
Absolutely, cool, man. Well, that's all I got. How about you?
yeah, no, that's it for tonight. So
Sweet. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this one up then. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Again, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, so please make sure you subscribe there. Subscribe on YouTube and leave us a comment if you have tried the game, either of these games, or if you have suggestions, because obviously, like we were saying earlier with Knockout League, I mean, if you guys suggest the game to us, we're probably going to check it out and review it on the podcast at some point, just because there's so many games coming out, which again it's a fantastic thing, because it's just a great time to be in VR. But we can't necessarily well, no, we can play them all. It's just in terms of curation, just being able to go through back and forth and find which games come up. So I'm sure, I know we missed some back and forth in terms of going through them. But if there's one that you guys think that we should check out, please do let us know. And so, yeah, with that, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Take care.